what a talk this morning. I can tell you that my fire is on fire. I mean, it is just going through the roof. I got to get my coat off. I mean, I'm burning up. And the folks that know me know that I have a pretty strong fire to begin with, so it has been fueled. Thank you very much, sir. Those are just outstanding stories, and there is so much opportunity and future in this. So I'm hosting my colleagues here, and we're going to talk about utility and community partnerships. We're going to talk about what's worked, and then we're going to really kind of probe the edges of places that are a little uncomfortable for us, which is what's not working so well, right? So we're going to kind of hit some of those things head on. And I'm going to be real honest with all of you. I'm doing this for very, very selfish reasons. At TVA, we have an obligation to invest about $20 million over the next several years in what we're calling a Smart Communities project. That project's going to be 3 communities, one in a very next generation of smart technologies, bringing those in, and how do we get a community into the next generation of smart technologies, and what does that mean from a community utility perspective. So I am going to be full ears open on this, and then the other 2 projects are what we're calling extreme energy makeovers. So we've got to do several thousand in 2 different communities. TVA's region spans all the way from the Mississippi to the Appalachians, so we span several temperature zones and climate zones, and so we have to do 2 of these extreme energy makeover projects with deep weatherization in at least 2 communities in 2 different temperature zones. So I'm going to pay attention to what we're doing today for very, very selfish reasons. And really, I do what I do. It's about helping people. Many, many years ago, I made a conscious decision to move to the customer side of the meter. I'm a longtime utility engineer. And that passion about being able to translate the utility speak of kilowatt hours and kilowatts and demand and energy and all those words, all those words that really don't mean much to normal folks, and try to translate that back to light and heat and comfort. We've heard comfort a couple times this morning, and that's really what I like to work on. So with that, let's get started. I am going to introduce the panelists and have them give 3 to 5 to 6 minutes on who they are, what their job title is and what they do, and really kind of why they're on the panel today. And then after we go through each of the 3 of them, then we'll have some general conversation about a series of questions that I've got on here. Michael, thank you for that. And with that, my first introduction is Cynthia Adams, Executive Director of the Local Energy Alliance Program in Charlotte.
Thank you, Bob. Good morning, everyone. Thanks very much for having me here today, SIA. It's been a wonderful relationship so far, and I feel in some ways like this is a culmination of several years of working together. I run a C3 nonprofit energy services company. We are headquartered in Central Virginia, and we have offices in Northern Virginia. We run commercial, low-income multifamily, and residential programs delivering energy efficiency savings to the communities in which we serve. And we are a sponsor of Home Performance with Energy Star. So we work pretty closely with DOE in that capacity. We've also piloted the Home Energy Score with the Department of Energy, and so there's multiple reasons for many conversations with the Department of Energy. The reason I think I'm sitting here today, in part, is based on the successes that we've had that have come through the generous funding of SIA via the Better Buildings grant that the Department of Energy put out. We've been able to achieve almost 1,000 retrofits in our Central Virginia community in about 2.5 years, and those are all, speaking of on the residential side, we've done well over 100 so far in our low-income multifamily, with about 600 more in the pipeline, and then we've done 8 commercial energy retrofits. Because of the success that we've had in Central Virginia in particular, we got on the radar of Old Dominion Electric Cooperative and one of their member co-ops, Rappahannock Electric Cooperative. Now, Old Dominion is a co-op for the co-ops. It's owned by its 11 member cooperatives. They have Rappahannock, which overlays part of our service territory, has about 140,000 meters. We selected a 4-county region, some of which overlapped and some which was adjacent to our original service area, to do a pilot. We signed a master service agreement with ODEC, and we were looking at how we could work together to leverage the investment made by foundations in the federal government in LEAP in order to provide a turnkey service for their members. And basically the way it looks is something along these lines. The co-op maintains a connection to their membership as the trusted source for information about energy, and they have taken the lead on doing the marketing and the promotion for our program through direct bill inserts, through a direct letter, and through other marketing activities to their membership in this pilot area. And the member is then directed to Rappahannock's website, where they're given some basic information about the program. After that, they click through to our website, where we have an online engagement tool. Energy Savvy is our vendor for that online engagement tool in our program software. And the software's been pretty important in helping us to keep this whole process moving smoothly. So once a customer tells us something about their house and what their interests are, we then hand that member off to an energy advisor, which would be someone on Rappahannock staff, or if they're short on scheduling, LEAP might also step in and use one of our staff members to go to the home then, perform an energy score and an in-home review, have a kitchen table discussion with that member, talk about a checklist of potential improvements, and then at that point we seek to enroll the homeowner in our Home Performance with Energy Star program. And from that point we do a handoff, and LEAP takes over. We follow up with the customer, we try to make sure that they get off with the right contractor, they get the right improvements done. And as part of our Home Performance with Energy Star program, we do independent quality assurance inspections. So we really try to make sure that our contractors are doing very high quality work and that the energy savings the homeowner expects to see will in fact be there. Because we work with our local credit union and they are a Power Saver loan partner, not only are we able to provide incentives via cash rebates for improvements that ODEC is funding, but also low interest financing, very low interest financing, actually through the credit union. So it's very much a turnkey service, but it's a cooperative, coordinated approach between the member co-op and our program. And because we're very much community-based and focused between the credit union, between the co-op, and between LEAP, all of our vision is aligned in doing right by our community and our customers. I'll pause.
Very, very good. Thank you. That's we will have lots to talk about over the next 50 minutes, so that's good stuff. So our next panelist, Joe Gerdes.
It's fine.
I told Joe I would get that wrong, and I absolutely did, so my apology. With Huntsville Utilities in Huntsville, Alabama, and in full disclosure, they are one of TVA's very important power distributor customers.
Meaning I have to be very careful what I say.
And vice versa. So tell us why you're here, Joe.
Well, I'm here on the suggestion of my friends at Nexus Energy Center. So let me explain how it came about. I believe I got an email from Daniel Tate. Daniel's in here somewhere. Daniel said to me, probably mid-December, hey, I think you might be interested in this. So I looked at it and I ran it by the boss, and he said, let me chew on that for a little bit. And then after Christmas, I get on see his website, and I saw the agenda, and I was on it. So I said, hey, boss, I didn't know this was going to happen, but I think we need to be there. And that's why I'm here. I'm a little surprised that I'm the only distributor represented here. That's unfortunate, and that tells me there's a problem. And it's a communication problem, and that's what I do. I'm communicating. My view of everything utility related is the 80,000-foot view. I can't get into the same kind of details that any of the other panelists can, but what I can do is keep the conversation going. And I'm going to use Nexus as the example of why that must happen. For some reason, and I've not yet been able to explain it to myself, there is some level of suspicion between utility companies and utility distributors and people like yourselves. I don't know why. I mean, I kind of know why, but I don't know why there are those that don't feel like we can talk to each other. So, we got into the WISE program with Nexus. Richie, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was about 3 years ago when it started. I happened to be involved in that conversation in my previous time I spent with the Home Builders Association. I was a government relations staff there. And the utility and Nexus came to us to say, we need an educational qualifier for our participating contractors. So we did that, and so I sit in a unique position, I feel like, to have been involved in this discussion from the home builder side as well. So I'm familiar with South Phase. I'm familiar with, in Alabama, we have a very dysfunctional program called Energy Key. That's a whole other story. But, so, we got into the project with Nexus, and then there was a change that came down from DOE through SEIA in how the rebates, the refunds to the customers that participated were to be paid out. And the communication line broke down. And because we didn't have an agreement on paper with Nexus, we did an about face, we just walked away from it. And that's unfortunate. I think that could have been avoided through better communication, or any communication. And I think it broke down at every level. Just to be blunt, I don't think it was communicated very well from DOE to SEIA, from SEIA to Nexus, and from Nexus to utility. And there's no reason for that. All you have to do is take the phone. All you have to do is go to lunch. And so that's what I do. So my job today is to bring back the message to my supervisor, my handlers, is that you guys, you know, this grant may be going away, but this effort is never going to go away. And we need to be engaged, even if it's just to say to our customers, this is great, you should do this. Because in my view and in my experience thus far, you don't really need us. If you can get to our customers and convince them that they need to do what you think they need to do, they'll do it. If it's going to save them money, if we can somehow help you do that, I think we will. But we may not be able to. Again, my central message is we should still be able to sit around the table and talk to each other about it. And so we've come back to the table with Nexus, and we're talking. We don't agree, but we're talking. So talk to me, you know, that's why I'm here. Just a little bit about myself, though, and it's going to get around the room if I continue to get to know you guys. One of the SEIA employees has become particularly interested in the fact that I used to front a thrash metal band. My hair was decidedly longer than it is now. I was quite a bit younger, and that experience has a lot to do with why I have no fear of being in front of you. But, so that's, if you want to talk to me about that, great, but it's pretty boring.
I don't think it's boring at all, but for those that know me, I normally ask folks as part of the introduction to share something about themselves that we don't really need to know. I think you got there.
I mean, you know, other than music, right now in my life, other than the recreational center of my life revolves around two words, and it's roll tide.
So that is a whole conversation for another panel for another time. One of the things that I have learned being relatively new, I'm coming up on my third year to the Southeast, is that in the fall, from about 10 o'clock Friday morning till well after lunch on Monday, there is no work that gets done other than SEC football. I mean, there is none. We have another Roll Tide alumni, one of our teammates that works for me, Carl Siegenthaler, is over there. Carl?
I believe we had that conversation last week.
There you go. All right, but you can see why Joe is here. We do need these really candid conversations about the fact that we can be as driven and as focused and as righteous as we think we are sometimes and still not reach the goal line. To continue with the football analogy. And that is the role of folks like Joe that can provide that lubricant to help those of us that are driven to do something work in the real world. So Joe, thank you, and that is why you're here.
Thank you very much for having me.
Mike Smith, Manager of Energy Programs, Central Electric Power Co-op in Columbia, South Carolina.
Thank you, Bob. And thank you for the opportunity to be able to speak with you all today. I'm going to talk a little bit about who we are, because I think it kind of defines the challenges that we have from the utility side to embrace things like energy efficiency. I know some of it's obvious, but it's still things that we have to address. Central Electric is a co-op. It's owned by its 20 members, and we have 20 South Carolina distribution cooperatives that are in every county in the state. We serve a third of the population, and it's about 1.5 million people. We're 90% residential, but what's interesting is of our residential customers, 25% live in manufactured homes. As we all aware of this, you have to treat differently than stick-built homes. And there hasn't been as much out there for them. So we kind of, back in around 2007, 2008, as a utility, we're responsible to meet the needs of our members, which is cheap energy on all the time and reliability. And we were kind of looking down some real big questions with the carbon tax that was being considered, and with the threat of the generation that we were planning during that time. And so we were looking at what our options were. One is energy efficiency, bringing in renewable energy, which is still very expensive at the time. I say sometimes we have a very short period that we look down the road. And we decided to start a weatherization. Well, we wanted to weatherize homes. What would it look like if we weatherized some homes in South Carolina? So we funded for these homes to be weatherized. There's about 65 homes, and we did not have a very good infrastructure of contractors, which we know is one of our challenges. And we just basically left it up to the individual co-op to find their local contractors, pick the homes. It was very loose guidelines, and we got those homes weatherized. We probably put HVAC units in half of the homes. And even though it was very loose guidelines, and we got some of the things we'd expect as far as what contractors think should be done and what was done, we still saved on an average of over 25% energy savings across all the homes. Some of them were home runs, over 50%, and other ones, almost 0% energy savings. During that time, while we were doing that, we were engaging in starting to get trained up in the BPI weatherization program, so we can get certifications and get our contractors up to speed. We were awarded ARRA money to do some weatherization or specific program, specific upgrades in manufactured housing. We touched about 1,200 homes in that project, and we would go to 200 manufactured homes we put on cool roofs, and then we monitored it for a year. We put in just the HVAC and ductwork system in other homes. And it's not the way you do a weatherization program, but what we wanted to do is we wanted to segregate out different aspects of weatherization, see if we can attribute what works and what doesn't. HVAC, energy monitors, which is pretty much just behavioral-based insulation. And with that, we learned that improving HVAC works, ductwork. We were surprised a little bit on the cool roofs on manufactured homes. Very expensive to put on a white membrane roof on a manufactured home. I mean, we were putting these on homes that the upgrade was probably worth more than the home. But the energy drop, especially during our peaks, was amazing. It was amazing in the wintertime, which we didn't expect, that the homes stayed warmer because of the infiltration benefits that these roofs put into place. And then our next step and last step was the Help My House project, is we put in a on-bill financing. In this case, we were looking at we ended up upgrading 125 homes. Our members paid for these upgrades. It was an average of $7,500 a home that they paid. Some homes we put in only $1,200 worth of work, and other homes we put in over $12,000 worth of work. What we did is we used a modeling software, REM Design, and we just modeled the home, and if the numbers proved out that it would get the payback within 10 years, then that home was eligible, and we'd go ahead and upgrade it. So the members paid for that, which was close to $1 million in loans. Our program costs were close to $1 million, and this is one of the things we'll talk about. If you're not going up to scale, it's not going to work from our side, from the utility side. We are just finished up our year, after those homes were weatherized about a year ago, and we just finished a year's analysis, and now we're waiting for the report to come back on that to see were our predictions accurate on a home-by-home basis. Because for us, if we're going to ask our members to take out a loan on the home, it's got to work for them. It can't just work on average for the utility. From the utility point of view, if we get an average savings or an average drop of 30% of home, we're happy. But for the person that's paying that loan, their home has to hit it too, which makes things a little bit more difficult. And then we're also kind of finding out, getting